Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey. We're going to break in for tornado warning coverage now. A tornado warning has been issued for parts of Cass County as multiple rotating storms now are working their way into our viewing area. I'll say this right up front. First off, we will be double boxing golf coverage when the action is happening. They're doing the interviews and things of that, so we'll shy away from that. But once we've got live action in golf as much as we can, we'll be sure and bring that coverage to you during double boxes. Let's talk first off of where things are right now and what we're looking at. This first tornado warning is for Cass County. There's a likely tornado near Meteorologists, southwest of Beardstown, moving off to the east. That's with this particular storm here. At this time, we think there's likely quarter-size to ping-pong ball-size hail with 60-mile-per-hour winds in the Beardstown area due to this rotating supercell thunderstorm. I'll say this as well. We think the chance is there that this next storm, southwest of Virginia, moving off to the east, could become the next problem. There's been reports of rotating wall clouds near the Ironsville area. That would be moving towards Leaderberry, south of Virginia, and eventually towards Ashland and into Sangamon County. We will watch that one closely. A number of these rotating storms that are in the area here as we go. The time now is 4:20. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey. We've got meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff here also watching these storms. I'm going to just give you a big picture. First off, tornado watch is in effect for a good chunk of the viewing area. That will go until 10 o'clock tonight. That watch does cover areas from Springfield towards Decatur, off to the south and east towards Mattoon, Charleston. You've been watching that right here at the bottom of the screen. Right there is where those alerts have been going on by, and that'll be something we continue to keep an eye on as we update that with these new warnings. This does not include Champaign-Urbana or Danville. We tend to think the greatest tornado threat will be just south of the Champaign-Urbana area, more towards I-70 and along the I-72 corridor from Decatur westward. It does include Shelbyville. I know it's a beautiful sunny day in parts of the region. We do think there's probably folks out and enjoying it, but that tornado watch is in effect as these storms move our way, and over the next several hours things could be very busy, especially where that tornado watch is in effect. As far as the risk for tornadoes go today, we are at a 5. That 5 now you can see is really where that tornado watch is. Less likely the further north we go. I think we'll get a break from severe weather today for Ford, Iroquois, Livingston, McLean counties. It'll be close there for Champaign, Vermilion counties. We might get some wind from storms later, but the greatest threat for tornadoes is here in that Springfield to Effingham corridor, including Decatur, Mattoon, Charleston. Then as these storms continue off to the south and to the east. We'll be keeping a close eye on all of these here. I want to give you an area-wide view. Let's take a look at the radar from the region, and you'll notice here at this point the only action we've got is in far west central Illinois. Cass County, we've got viewers there. We get messages from them, just like maybe you at home have had severe weather coverage for tornadoes so far this year in what's been a very busy year. We provide coverage for everyone, and we believe our viewers in Cass County are just as important as everyone else, and so we'll continue to have our coverage here, which could be for a little while with the way things are looking. Springfield, probably the next metropolitan area in line for these storms, not moving all that fast, moving around 20 to 25 miles an hour. Off here, we do have some sprinkles and some light showers in Champaign County off to the north and west towards Bloomington, some cloud cover that is sneaking on in. But for the most part here, it seems like that's going to help to keep our severe weather potential down just a little bit. I'm going to bring up our sky cams real fast here, and we'll show you. First off, this is Decatur. Nice sunny day in Decatur. That might change in the next few hours. We'll switch on over here to Springfield and check that out. This camera will be facing more to the west and northwest. That's our storm there. Highway, you take the highway out towards Virginia, heads in that direction. Unfortunately, the way the building is set, there's a pole in the way there. So we'll do the best we can in viewing that, but that's showing some of those darkening skies. You can see what appears to be the anvil of those thunderstorms, that overshooting top starting to develop, as these are supercell thunderstorms that are causing some problems and will likely continue to cause problems here for the next little bit. As far as we go, let's just check out Champaign real quick. Things are looking a little gray there. Had some light showers and some sprinkles coming in. Still have that here. That might help to keep the instability down a little bit. We'll see how the warm air, the warm unstable air moves, but maybe this is a better view for us. Won't rule it out for Champaign County. And it may not be the tornadoes. It could be the wind later. That becomes a problem for us here in central Illinois. We'll go back to radar now and keep an eye on it. First off, this is the one tornado warning for Cass County. Meteorologists sits here on US 67. They got the big power power plant on the Illinois River. There's Meteorologists. It's off to the north of that. It'll be moving to the east towards Orangeville. Right now crossing very close to US 67, about 4 or 5 miles south of Beardstown there. Orangeville, this storm here as well, quite interesting to see. And we flip on the velocity for you. You'll notice that one circulation right here, it's coming and going a bit. And let me make sure I got my right product on. So there it is that. This right here, though, another circulation that may be worth watching. Be heading towards Leaderberry here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Stay north of Jacksonville, more than likely. Stay north of Joy Prairie, the Jacksonville airport. But Leaderberry, eventually downstream Ashland. This northern circulation could be an issue for Virginia, but we'll watch them closely here. And Seth, I would say that between these, we've been kind of watching back and forth. These two spots have almost pulsed up. They've pulsed down a little bit. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would. And we did see pictures earlier of the one that was out there near Orangeville. That rotation had a pretty good wall cloud on it there for a little bit. We did get someone to message, though, saying that it's gotten a bit messier looking here in the last 10 or so minutes. Had better attempts about 10 or 15 minutes ago for kind of tornadic activity. But right now on the ground, it apparently looks not quite as good as it once did. Obviously, the velocity image there is enough to prove to you that it's still something worth watching. And where are we looking at here with this one, Jacob?
Yeah, that's the photo that came from the Champaign County Emergency Management there. And you could see on the left side there's the updraft, that rain-free base, and then some of the rain there to the right side. This was an earlier photo. We have seen other photos, though, of what appears to be really intense wall cloud. And about 10 or 15 minutes or so ago, there was some reports of intense rotation with that as it was working its way in that direction. So we'll continue to watch things closely and monitor that here, Seth. The atmospheric conditions today, yesterday we had that same risk, but storms were forming overhead and they had a limited opportunity to move through our area and cause problems, and they waited just long enough. Today, though, Seth, that's not quite the case, is it?
Correct. The situation we had yesterday, we were kind of at the just very beginning of those storms firing up. Today is different in the fact that the beginning is happening just off to our west, so now we are in that area that's probably going to experience them as they start to move on in here, and we're kind of watching that with the one tornado warned storm here at the moment. I will say velocity, the last couple of scans have made this come down just a little bit, still something to keep an eye on for, but if they haven't issued any kind of tornadic warning there for that one to the south of the one that is warned, I don't imagine they would hear any time immediately soon, just based on the recent reads.
Yeah, we kind of look at things here. So if we can put me on the left side there, I'll kind of point some things out. There's a lot of storms that are in that area, and that's going to be a problem. So we've got, multiple storms. Maybe one thing that will help us with this here is, as these storms merge together, they disrupt the updrafts and become less of a problem. That can be our friend in situations like this. It doesn't necessarily mean, though, it will disrupt it and ruin it. What we do think, though, is sometimes when those storms merge, if they time themselves out right, sometimes they can actually enhance the rotation and cause more problems. And that could be in the form of a tornado or rapid rotating wall cloud or things of that. This is the storm here near Beardstown, and we are a little ways away from the radar. The radar here is in the Lincoln area. That Beardstown one still has a bit of clearing there to the south and west. This storm here, though, we were watching near Orangeville, Seth. You can see that second storm lifting right into it, and that may be disrupting, could be temporarily, but could be impacting that rotation in there. But notice more storms now starting to pop to the west, coming out of Pike County there towards Scott County, from Griggsville towards Winchester and west of Jacksonville. Probably have to watch these other ones here. And as I switch over to my velocity product on that, really, I don't see anything from those yet, but it certainly does look like maybe the rotation on that Orangeville storm a little bit less. The one there south side of Beardstown, though, still holding on at this point, and so that's something that we'll be keeping a very close eye on. As we go here, I know golf is going on, and we'll keep that double box up for you as we watch these storms. There's a lot of activity, a lot of action there in the western part of the state, a line of storms that's taking form from areas north of Quincy down to the south and east. That'd be up towards Pike. There's Pike County. There's Adams and Hancock County. Hancock County to the south and east into Cass County here. And those storms will continue to move to the south and to the east. Coming up here in a bit, we're going to have Seth talk a little bit about maybe the rest of the night, what we expect. That might be something good to do, as we do have that tornado warning still for Cass County, not for Morgan County. It is just north of there and may stay that way. But certainly as we continue to monitor things here, that's the storm that we'll have to watch. And if the National Weather Service says, hey, we're going to drop this warning, then we will go back to full coverage and leave Gulf alone until it's necessary to come back on in here to the region. I see, Seth, the Springfield camera. You turn that a little bit. Let me just bring that up in mine real quick.
Turning it just a tad. Starting to look a little darker. We're, of course, a little too far away. Kind of can't really get too much contrast there on the storm, but it is starting to look a little more visible than what it was earlier when we just kind of had the sunny skies out there.
Yeah, a bit dark, a bit ominous looking there. Of course, you got all the bugs flying around. That's a sign of the summer there. But this is looking, I think this is looking just more slightly north of west. Is that correct? I think this is
correct.
The airport right here to give you a vantage.
West-northwest.
This sits in downtown on that tall tower. We usually get a good view of the Capitol, but we can swing that camera around and get a view on things here. So far, it's still a ways out. And that's good news for us here. Still a ways out from Springfield, but we keep the trend up, and eventually that's going to move in that direction. So kind of looking, Seth, we talked about that storm south of Virginia near Leaderberry. To me, as I look higher up, it almost looks like at the surface that rotation is being disrupted a little bit, but maybe mid-level rotation starting to come up a bit. And I would suggest maybe the same thing for the storm west of Jacksonville, the storm in the Winchester area. Two separate ones there in the early stages of becoming a problem. Perhaps at this point, when I look at the Beardstown storm off to the side here, not as organized, but still signs of rotation are there, and that's something that we'll continue to keep an eye on. Seth, let me know when you're ready, and I'll toss to you a little bit over at the quad, and we can kind of walk through things and whatnot.
Getting one last thing put together here.
Totally fine with that. I'll just pop the radar back on and show you what's going on here. So we got these little storms here, and if you look at them, they almost look like little kidney beans here. Oftentimes when we see that on radar, I'm a little zoomed out there, see that kind of kidney bean shape there? It's a little more of like an arc or the edge of an oval. That could be a sign. That is a sign that storms are rotating, and when we see that as meteorologists, that's one thing we look for, how they're rotating. The physical appearance can determine what it is, and this is certainly a sign of some of the severe weather potential that's upon us here for the day today. So far, severe thunderstorm warning to the north, including Beardstown. Looks like that dropped at 4:30, but the tornado warning, Seth, is going to continue. That's going to go until 4:45, and that storm now kind of near the Beardstown area. There's a warm front right in that area, and that warm front is one of the problems that we have here. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So in the back, we're going to send it to Seth at the quad here in a second. We can keep the double box up for him, but just wanted to give you a heads up on what we're doing for that. And he'll be talking about some things here once you guys are ready for him to just swap that over. So looking here now. All right, so we're going to look here now and send it over to Seth. Seth, talk us through a little bit more about what the rest of the afternoon, the evening brings. Some folks are saying, I know it's happening. This isn't near me. Why do I care about this? It's probably coming towards them. Isn't that right, Seth?
Correct, yes. Even though we're not dealing with it actively here at the moment, it's something we have to watch for. Kind of talked at the beginning of the day, there's kind of two kind of different modes of storms. We're kind of in that first mode right now where it's just kind of those discrete storms, more individualized. They're allowed to just rotate a lot easier. That's what prompted this initial tornado watch. But notice how it spans really far to the east as well. We're not expecting these cells to continue to just be individual here by the time they get to some of these eastern counties around the I-57 area. What's going to happen is later on in the night, these storms are going to kind of merge together into more storm complexes, or maybe even kind of a line segment. But even within that, you can kind of start to see some tornado activity within those sometimes. Now, we're just going to walk through one of our future track models here. This one doing a pretty decent job right now of depicting the current situation, and that's kind of what helps us also to pick which model to show you, is which ones are accurately depicting what's going on right now. So as we go for the next couple hours here, this one is valid at 5:30. You can see things are going to become a little noisy here. That's kind of what what we're looking at out there in the west right now with Cass and Morgan County. Kind of storms jumping in, interrupting each other, kind of fighting each other there to kind of draw in all that energy to generate some more storm activity. That's going to kind of continue to be the case here over the next couple of hours. We'll see some cells become a little more dominant. We'll see other cells there kind of fade off and kind of give way to those stronger ones. And what we'll see, though, is you can see moving into the rest of the night, this does kind of start to cluster up there into more of a line, and that's when you start to get more places like, the Decatur area, Champaign, Matsu, and Effingham. That's when your severe weather threat starts to activate there, but that's not for the next couple of hours, so we're watching that. By the time it gets to this, it won't so much be a tornado threat. That'll still be there, but it's going to be your damaging wind threat to watch. And we will be watching this thing all the way through until the midnight hour there is our best guess. So right now, the tornadoes are the big thing to watch, as is the large hail. But as we kind of transition into a more linear storm system, all of a sudden it's going to be those strong winds as well. There also is a little bit of a flooding risk. The further north these storms are allowed to come, kind of affecting those areas that saw a bunch of rain there yesterday. Definitely don't want to add any more to the totals that they saw. So kind of anywhere here in this general red area we talked about, that's where those cells could bring that tornado and hail risk the most. Then as we start to approach to the east here, you kind of get into that yellow region. That's kind of the 7 p.m. to midnight time frame there. That's when the strong winds are going to take over with still that tornado threat. Those up to the blue area to the north, places like Livingston, Ford, and Iroquois counties, not quite as much of a threat there. But here's the general area that we're watching there for those damaging winds as this system eventually is set to become a line right now. But Jacob's still kind of seeing those cells kind of battling for dominance here at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what's going to happen. I will say new tornado warning just west of those storms now. That's going to be in parts of Schuyler County, it looks like there. This storm, the rotation in that one there behind it picked up a little bit. And so we will watch that closely. This kind of the day we're going to have is we'll see these storms start to pick up in intensity. Eventually, the hope is that these storms will merge together. They'll not be able to produce tornadoes, but that can then lead to more of that damaging wind threat as Seth was talking about. And so if we can get to that point, that would be an ideal scenario here. I think you can see right now as we look, there's that new circulation there. This is just outside of our area, northwest of Meteorologists. There's Meteorologists, power plants there, 67. That's a pretty drive there from Jacksonville up to Beardstown. That's the next rotation there. The storm that's in Cass County at this point, I don't see much in the way of low-level rotation, Seth. Would you agree with that assessment?
I would absolutely agree, because kind of the way we're looking at it right now is kind of way up more higher in the air because we're further away from the radar, and it just kind of doesn't, you need kind of upper-level rotation in order to get lower-level rotation. It just kind of looks a little flat there in that warning. But the one to the east
this
of it,
here, that still is more present to me than the other one, especially at the upper levels where we see that. So we're going to have to watch all of them, and that sometimes is what happens. They pull us up, they pull us down. You know, storms are trying to take a foothold here. Sometimes when you have just only a couple of storms, they can really take advantage of that situation. But it seems like at this point that multiple storms, they're kind of fighting each other now to get their footing. You know, it's like a bunch of brothers there just kind of beating it out amongst each other. But still, you've got to the south and west some pretty clear air here, and that's where the inflow is going to come in from the south side there. So still that chance, that storm near Leaderberry, probably one to watch. Even these here coming into Jacksonville, no warnings on them, but we just got to watch them, and we'll continue to do that here for the next bit as we keep an eye on things. Just checking out some of the social media feeds and making sure I'm not missing anything here. Let me check with the National Weather Service. Man, that earlier wall cloud near Aaronsville.
it looked pretty good.
It did look
Definitely
pretty good,
did.
didn't
And
it?
the rotation on the storm that we're looking at still looks kind of similar to what it did when that picture was there. So
Yeah.
Too
So
shocked, but it still
it's
looks
not, they're not done. And what may happen, Seth, is we might, go back to golf. They're in commercial right now. It looks like getting ready to come back in. We'll put the double box back. We go to golf, then maybe we have to cut back in, and we'll see what happens because we could have several hours of action here with these storms coming on through. So we'll figure out here in the next 8 minutes what the plan is. That lower level here, this is probably the most impressive. There's no tornado warning on it. This Cass County area, it seems to be those storms merging together. And let me just loop the reflectivity here. With the storms, that's a little long. With the storms merging together, you know, you kind of see this, and that's a little fast even. Let me slow that down so I can illustrate. What am I doing here? Get that button. Looping speed, I'm going to put to slow.
You were bringing up a good point, though, with the inflow coming in from the south. A lot of the times you got a storm out in front of one. It's just going to kind of steal the show from the one behind it. Not to say necessarily that one behind it that does have the warning is going to just completely fade off here, but it's probably going to start losing some ground to that one to the southeast of it.
Yeah, I would agree with that here. It's kind of the storm. So you can almost see here how this storm lifts in and then that one merges in with it, kind of disrupting it. And as long as that keeps happening, then that might tamper the tornado threat a little bit, but it still is there. It really is here, and we might see more warnings come out.
Just got a notification saying that they're about to expire, that one in Cass County.
That's good news here. So control in the back. If that happens, let's go ahead and at 4:41. cut back. 441, we'll go back to Gulf full time, and if we need to cut back in, we will. You'll probably see us again, I think, the way things will look before the end of the night, Seth.
I would agree.
Storm behind it, more of them moving on in, but kind of give you a little situational here in the next couple of minutes as we watch. So we'll return to Gulf fully at 441 with the expiration of that the tornado warning coming. That's where the main storms are here. There is some more development to the south here now. We'll continue to watch towards Macoupin and Montgomery County. This warm front lifting through is providing rotation in the atmosphere for these storms to latch onto, giving them all that energy they need. Warm fronts, usually you talk about April and warm fronts for severe weather. That's not the case this year, it seems. It seems like severe weather happens whenever it happens. Of course, the calendar isn't what we follow for that. When the ingredients are there and severe weather happens, we'll be here for you. 441 cooler, confirmed that, so we're about a minute and a half away or so. You see here the tornado watch, that goes until 10 o'clock, so the next 5-6 hours at least will be active here as those storms continue on through. And again, kind of showing you future track real quick to give an idea. Overall, it's doing a decent job showing what happens, seeing that continue its eastward track. It kind of lines it out, which might be the case for us, but there can still be some rotation in there, which is something that we will monitor closely and keep an eye on. I'll pop that Springfield camera on. Still a dark view to the north and west, and we'll get darker. We've got our folks in Springfield that are watching. We know some chasers that are out also and haven't heard any reports from them, but that's kind of what we'll keep updated on here. Seth, with that, here in about a minute or so, any last thoughts before we take a little break?
Looks like, obviously, the polygon hasn't disappeared yet, but it looks like they are not re-warning that tornado warning in their
At this point, they've said... Yeah, at this point, they've said they're expiring. The expiration happens at 4:45, but when they give us that notification, we'll just dump out at 4:41 and work with master control. So that you'll still see in the bottom left corner of your screen that being there, but at 4:45, assuming all goes well, we will see those tornado warnings drop for our area, and we'll be back to just the tornado watch here. Again, storm near Orangeville, another one near Leaderberry. We'll keep an eye on the one near Jacksonville as well as we move on through. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our coverage here for you. It is 4:40 right now. We'll be in the studio monitoring things, working with our teams in the field as well to bring you the latest severe weather coverage as it is needed through the day today. I'm meteorologist Jacob Dickey in studio with meteorologist Seth Bohnhoff. We will now send it back to regularly scheduled program.